All right. Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive.
Yes.
And today,
Let's do it.
we are talking all about Australian taxes,
Right.
specifically GST and BAS.
Okay.
We've got a great document here called Pasted Text that has some really clear explanations.
Wonderful.
And we're gonna just use that to break down some of these sometimes confusing terms.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Let's start with GST.
All right.
Goods and Services Tax.
Okay.
So,
What is that all about?
yeah, what is that all about?
Well, GST is a 10% tax that's added to most goods and services in Australia.
Okay.
So, if you think about it, when you go to JB Hi-Fi and buy a new TV,
Right. Like,
the price includes GST.
okay, so it's already built in.
It's already built in, and then that money that you pay on that 10% goes to the government as tax revenue.
So is that how they fund all the things?
It's a major source of funding for the government.
Okay.
It allows them to provide all sorts of essential services.
So like the new wing at the Children's Hospital?
Potentially, yeah. Schools, roads, parks, all those things are funded in part by GST revenue.
Wow.
It's a broad-based tax that affects a huge range of transactions.
It's kind of hard to avoid.
It is pretty hard to avoid.
All right. Well, so all these businesses are collecting this GST.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Well, that's where the BAS comes in,
Okay.
the business activity statement.
Right.
So this is the document that businesses use to report their GST obligations to the ATO.
ATO.
The Australian Taxation Office.
Right.
So essentially, every quarter, businesses need to file this statement showing how much GST they've collected from their customers and also claiming any credits for the GST that they've paid on their own supplies.
So if I had a cafe in Melbourne,
Yes.
I would have to report.
Exactly. You'd be reporting all the GST you collect from selling coffees and pastries.
Okay.
But you could also claim back the GST that you paid on things like coffee, beans, and equipment.
Right. Like the chairs.
Exactly. Input tax credits.
Oh.
So, for example, let's say you paid $100 in GST on supplies for your cafe, but you collected $150 in GST from your customers.
Right.
Well, you can deduct that $100 that you paid, meaning you only owe $50 in GST to the ATO.
Okay.
So it helps to keep things fair for businesses.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about GST a lot.
Right.
That's one tax rate?
Well, not quite a tax rate is a broader term.
Okay.
It's the percentage of income or value that's paid as tax.
Okay.
And it applies to various things, not just GST.
So like Qantas.
Exactly. They pay corporate taxes on their profits.
Right.
And that tax rate is set by the government.
Okay.
It's not always a fixed number either.
What do you mean?
Well, there are different types of tax rates depending on what's being taxed. For example, for individuals, we have marginal tax rates, which means the percentage of tax you pay increases as your income goes up.
So there's all different ones.
There's a lot of different ones, but understanding these different rates helps you see how the entire tax system works.
Well, I feel like we've just skimmed the surface,
We have.
but it's already way more clear to me than it was before.
I'm glad to hear that.
You know what else I've realized?
What's that?
It's important to understand this stuff, even if you don't run a business,
Absolutely.
because it affects how prices are calculated,
Right.
how the government is funded, even how our own income is taxed.
Exactly. It's all connected.
Yeah.
So I hope this deep dive has been helpful for you.
Yeah. And maybe you want to learn more now.
Maybe.
I mean, this is just the beginning.
It is just the tip of the iceberg.
There's a whole world of tax knowledge out there.
What stood out to you the most today?
Good question.
Any lingering curiosities about Australian taxes?
Oh, yeah.
Anything that surprised you? Maybe this has even made you think about how these concepts might apply to other countries.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, this is just the start of your tax journey.
It is.
Keep asking questions and never stop learning.
Absolutely.